Let's talk about how we improve as photographers. Hey, how's it going? I'm recording this on December 31st, on New Year's Eve, towards the end of the holiday season. And I felt like, as a photographer, I've had a rather unproductive holiday. For context, Vancouver, the city that I live in, has seen the most amount of snow it's seen in, I guess, almost a decade. And everything's covered in white, everything's gorgeous. There's been multiple days of beautiful sunlight. It just felt like I've always had some sort of excuse to stay at home, whether it be to devour content on Instagram, to find those awesome photos that I aspire to take, or to watch more YouTube videos that give me tips on composition and color grading. There's a plethora of those. But at the end of the day, if we don't take photos, then we don't improve. A couple days ago, I finally decided that I've done enough procrastinating. I woke up early and went to go shoot some photos at Burnaby Lake. The plan was to get there for sunrise and hopefully catch some fog over the lake while the lake was still frozen and all the trees were covered in snow. But the skies weren't all that clear that day, and the sunrise didn't turn out to be extremely spectacular. But at the same time, a frozen lake in Vancouver isn't something that we get very often, so I had a good amount of time to practice with scenery that I'm not familiar with. And we saw these goose and ducks huddled up in this small area at the inlet of the lake, and I had quite a bit of practice shooting birds and wildlife. Something that I don't usually get to do. We even met this one guy who was kitted out with a Canon 5D Mark IV and a massive 600mm f4 lens. He taught us quite a bit about the birds in the local area, like how there's a single mandarin duck that lives in that area, but there is no other one of its species in anywhere near there. I also got some shots of the morning sun hitting the trees on the lakeside. It's not an uncommon sight by any means, but it feels like the way that I'm approaching that specific scene is different from when I did a year ago.
Well, let's get out of here.
And in my mind, that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across. Regardless of how many YouTube videos I watch about composition or how many reference photos I find on Instagram that I admire, I'm only going to get better by going out and shooting more photos, by putting the tips from YouTube to practice and honing my eye for what I see as good photography. And by no means am I a great photographer. I'm barely a novice photographer. But I think this is the most important tip that anyone could have given me and I could give to anyone else who's trying to break into the photography sphere. To go out and shoot and hone your eye for what you see as good photography, to develop your eye for great photos, to recognize good light. And again, there's a myriad of great photography tips on YouTube that have to do with composition and the use of color or a contrast. But those tips and lessons are only useful if you put them to work, if you put them into practice. And since we're recording this on New Year's Eve, I think this is going to be my New Year's resolution, to make less excuses and to go out and shoot more, to consume a little less content and to create a little bit more of my own. I hope you do the same. Anyways, I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, and I wish you a Happy New Year. Cheers.